to the On the Pitch podcast with Mo from Futbol TV. Mo, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Weather is awesome, so I can't complain.
Good, good. So I'm super excited. I'm glad that you're able to come onto the show. You've kind of got your own following. You've been doing this for a long time, and so it's really cool that we're actually finally able to collaborate and do one together. So.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I've been doing it for maybe 2.5 years or so.
Yeah.
So still new to it. And, talking soccer with fellow St. Louis folks, it's all about.
Yeah. So what made you want to start podcasting? Was there somebody who, you saw them doing it and you were like, oh man, I can do that? Or was it just kind of something you always wanted to do?
So it's one of those funny stories. So podcasting, no. Social media, no.
Okay.
But I was doing a lot of this, outside, just talking with friends and others. So when St. Louis City SC had brought up a team, so with all the excitement, I started to do small gifts, because I had all the equipment, fancy equipment to do it. So it kind of led from small gifts to then after that, I started doing small videos, and then it led to YouTube videos, and then it led to podcast, and then here we are now, full blown talking to people about soccer all the time. So it was never the plan. It's just the excitement, and then all of the people around, and it's one of those things that kind of sparked everything else.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you took the momentum from St. Louis finally getting a team, and you were like, hey, I can do something with this, and then basically you just kind of went from there. So I've always noticed your setup. You've got a lot of stuff going on behind you there with your little edit. I see the Senegal flag, I see France, I see your logo, I see the St. Louis Champions League. I see a lot of that. So, for the people that don't know you, obviously a lot of people that are going to be listening, they probably already know about you. But go ahead for the people that on my side of things who maybe don't know enough about you. Tell me where you're from, what teams you support, and kind of tell us about your journey, about how you kind of got to St. Louis. Like I said, I see Senegal, I see France, I see Champions League. Kind of tell me where you're from. How'd you get here?
Yeah, so I'm from France, Paris, a suburb which is called Sarcelles, which is we'll say about 10-15 minutes away from Stade de France, where they play the national stadium used to be. And so I pretty much grew up in France. Have been since day one PSG fans. So happy that we won the Champions League now. And
we'll definitely talk about that here in a little bit.
I'm sure we will talk about it. Yes. And I was fortunate enough to play a little bit to their system academy. So pretty much till I was age of 14 or so. And then after that, I had a little bit of injuries coming from my other sport, which was judo. So that had back injuries that kind of stopped my playing, trying to think that I might make it to the pros. So then after that, we moved to Kansas City, actually, where my dad was a linguistic professor. So I went to North Kansas City High School. That's where you will see it right here.
I know. I saw that earlier. That's awesome.
So I played there for about a year. Then I realized that, yes, those injuries was for real. So I was like, let's not even try college soccer at all from there. But then from playing just a year there, moved to Maryville University here. Just go to school as normal. My time in Kansas City, even though I watched the Wizards for one game at Aero Stadium, coming from where I came from, I pretty much was not the best experience that I had. So I did not watch any MLS soccer until St. Louis City SC came up.
Nice.
So that was my progression from France. My parents and I are originally from Senegal, so I do support the Senegalese team. So I support Senegal, France for my national team. Now the US, because that's where my home.
And you're everywhere, man. You've got it all, man.
But France is first, though.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I was going to say, if you would tier them, you would say France, Senegal, USA.
Yes, and France and Senegal are they're not too far from each other. Luckily, they don't play in the same continent, so not all the tournaments are against each other.
Yeah. So Senegal did pretty good last World Cup, right? They were
Yes.
quarterfinalists, and I think that was who did they wind up losing to?
Oh, now
Who
you
was
put that.
that? I can't remember who it was, but I do
I think
know
it
that
was a
Senegal made
European
a
guy.
pretty deep run, and everyone was kind of rooting for them.
Oh yeah. Oh, now you put. I try to forget lost as much as I want to,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, I. Yeah. Oh wow. I'm gonna have to circle
I
back on
had to
that
look
one.
that up. I can't remember who they lost to. Let's talk about your academy days. What academy did you say you went through again?
PSG. So I
Okay.
went. Yes. So I think that's the fun part where the love of the sports kind of came in. Even though France is like it's
Mm-hmm.
all about soccer,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one of those systems where pickup soccer is what leads you to some of those club experience.
Okay.
But you're not many of us think that you are going to play professional. It's just happened that it almost becomes a club soccer experience
Okay.
where it's like you're just playing outside with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small neighborhood, so everybody talks to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a whole bunch of kids then move up to a certain club. So it's not like in St. Louis where you have to you have to pick your club team.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's your suburbs, and then your neighborhood has a small team,
Mm-hmm.
and then probably the next level is then it's a club team, which is then
Okay.
the academy of whoever's near you.
So you were
And
like almost like a regional team of the PSG Academy, kind of like
yes,
that.
yes,
Because I
and
was
so
gonna.
you're all under their umbrellas. They
Mhm.
you pretty much you're under the family of them.
Yeah.
So anything that the scouts, the treatment, everything is with a PhD as the big one, and then they
Hmm.
start cherry picking those that may make the mark.
Yeah. Can you name drop anybody that you played with that maybe is still playing nowadays, or maybe not even nowadays, but maybe they played a little bit of a professional, maybe anybody at all?
I would say probably the closest one that was Claude Makelele that won the '98 World Cup with France.
Uh huh.
He played for Real Madrid and
Uh
then
huh.
played for PSG as well. And his last thing was with Chelsea.
Hmm.
And I think he was also one of our senior players that actually coached us as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. And that's how I became a Chelsea fan because when he
Okay.
moved to England,
Hmm.
it's like a guy that grew up in our area.
Yeah.
So you follow them, and that's how.
That's kind of how like Missouri people feel with like Josh Sargent. It's like holy cow, like a guy who's I grew up in Mobley, Missouri, so I was actually about 2 hours right there central where Columbia is,
Yep.
so just like right north of that. And so even though I didn't go to St. Dominic and I didn't play for them, but seeing a guy from St. Louis, it's like hey, it's one of us, like we made
Yep.
it, look at us. That's I mean basically anybody from Missouri that makes it is we have that same mentality, right? We root for them no matter where they go because it's like it's one of the guys from your own state. It's just because USA obviously so big,
Yes.
I mean, basically every single state's a country. So
Yep.
it's like
Hmm.
almost like if you have a Missourian playing in the Premier League or the Championship or Serie A or whatever, it's like, hey, we made it. Like, good job, Missouri, on that one. So
And it yes.
yeah, so you came over to America. I mean, that had to have been a big culture shock, and I'm sure there were probably some tears shed when you had to leave France. But what was that like? And then whenever you came over to America, how did you enjoy it? Did it take a lot for you to kind of get used to? Did you hate it? I mean, like, what was that like?
I think culture shock maybe not as much. Because
Hmm.
I also had a quick pit stop in Canada as well.
Hmm.
So it was more of a France, Canada, and the US. But we've traveled and come to the US on vacation already.
Hmm.
So we kind of had that cultural experience on there.
Okay.
Um, but I think at first it was just a playtime in the US. So that's
Hmm.
where, you think it's the greatest of, the places. But
Hmm.
then when you become an adult, that's where reality do a
Oh
check.
yeah.
But I don't think it was as much as a culture shock because maybe Francis might be on the other side of the globe, but it's
Hmm.
still, the Western world of things. So I think it was just maybe the language,
Yeah.
um, the traveling, going from Kansas City to St. Louis. It's like you going from Paris to probably Milan because of all of the driving. So it's not too bad. But culture shock, not as bad as someone fresh.
Okay. So you went to North Kansas City High School. So I'm actually going to be I was a coach and teacher here in Moberly where I'm from. I'm actually going to be moving up to Kansas City here next week, and I'll
Right.
be one of the assistant coaches at Park Hill South. So
Nice.
I'm going
So
to
right
be
down the
right around
street.
that, yeah, right up that area.
Yes.
What was it like at North Kansas City High School? You know, from one of the things that I've heard from everyone that I've talked to, they've got people from all over the world that
Yep.
go to that high school. Was there like obviously whenever you came to America going to that high school, it probably was really helpful with how diverse it was and all of that. Like, how did you? Because obviously, I don't know what schools are like in Paris. I don't know what schools are like in France. Are they that much different, or is there? I mean, what's the difference between going to high school in France compared to the United States?
Um, I think there's somewhat of a difference. Well, they call them college in France
Okay.
for high school.
Hmm.
And I think it's the education is totally different.
Okay.
Um, I will say there's probably a lot more stricter when it comes to school wise.
Hmm.
The sports specifically are removed almost
Hmm.
from there. So it's like
Yep.
you will play your pickup soccer during the breaks between
Hmm.
classes, but it's not like you're going to say, "Hey, I'm going to play high school soccer." It's
Hmm.
not there.
Yeah.
There is some school may have it, but a lot of those kids that have those aspirations or something, that will be a club thing
Yeah,
separate.
they're going and playing for the local club. They're playing for
Yes.
the academies, and that's I've heard that from a lot of my English and Irish friends. It's the same way. They don't really have it tied with the school because every town has its own team. Every club, or there's multiple clubs, and I'm sure Paris has
In one
gobs of
suburb, you might
clubs.
have 4 or 5
Yeah,
clubs.
yeah. So there's a
Yes.
lot more opportunities to play. It doesn't mean you have to be at your high school.
Right.
So you played at North Kansas City. I mean, tell us about what it was like playing there and for high school here in America.
I think it was great. I think ours were, like you say, a little bit different because
Hmm.
if you watch our entire team, it was like Sudanese, there was
Hmm.
Mexican, there was a lot of North Kansas City. It's very has a lot of countries coming in,
Hmm.
um, and their ESL groups in classes were pretty much. I think our team may have had 3 or 4 Americans out of like the you know
Yeah.
15, 17 players.
Hmm. Okay.
So yeah, so you could see it was very well diverse, which made
Hmm.
it a lot easier to kind of introduce yourself and
Yeah.
kind of put yourself in American culture. So it was not
Hmm.
as big as a culture shock as if you were in the middle of Missouri where maybe you were the only new foreign
Hmm.
kid.
Yeah.
When I went in, there was plethora to
Yeah, you were
to
just
get
one
used
of
to.
the other ones. Like you were just
Yes.
it was pretty normal for have a guy from France show up and be on the team. So I think
Yeah.
that's
So it
I mean
was just
that's
another dot on the
yeah, I
map.
mean that's super great. I mean, like I've heard so many good things about North Kansas City School. Was it an open campus like it is now? Because that's what I
It
think.
is, yes. All the
Yes, like
different buildings were. You have to go
mhm,
across the street if you wanted to go to English and
yeah,
what how you call it, arts and all that. So yes,
mhm.
so there's the main building and then there's multiples around it.
So that kind of probably helped you, get used to college life
Yeah,
super super
that was
early.
it. Sure did. I think what 2 or 3 buildings and the library was a few blocks away. So
Hmm.
North Kansas City was it pretty much just still your small town kind of feel with the
Hmm.
high school there. Even though it has changed now where there's a lot more houses around, but
Yeah,
um, it was definitely that small experience because Park Hill was right next to, um, pretty much what a
yeah. It's only
few
about 10 miles
3 miles back.
away. Yeah, it's
Yes,
it's right. You pop on the highway and you go left, and Park Hill South is right there on by that hill. So
yes,
so I'm excited about that. I'm excited to move up there to Kansas City. I mean, that's where my wife is
yeah.
from, so she's really excited about moving back to Kansas City, and that was one of the areas that we looked at and we loved. So we're hoping to buy a house here in the next couple of days up there in that Gladstone area, so up around that North Kansas City area.
That's exactly where we live. That's where
That's
we live
awesome.
for. Yes, Gladstone, Missouri. It's where we lived. Yes.
Yeah. So obviously, like when you went through the academy and then you played high school, but before that, who was like your biggest influence when it came to football or soccer? Like, who was your idol? Like, and why'd you look up to that person?
That's interesting. So there was a Brazilian player that's called Rai. You know how Brazilian only gives himself one
Hmm.
name on the back. So it was Rai was like one of my favorite players because he was like 1 tall midfielder, but also had kind of the foot skills, show what Brazilian was like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of
Very
showed
technically
me the
skilled. Yeah.
yes, and dribbling and smiling and kind of enjoying the sport.
Hmm.
Where for us European, they were a little bit more structured, solid
Hmm.
guys. So
Yeah.
for him was more of that the more playful like experience.
Hmm.
That was him for like the what I enjoy watching.
Hmm.
Um, I think the Claude Makélélé was more my position for like defensive midfielders.
Yeah.
So that's who I kind of look up to and pretty much say he's the one that created the CDM position, pretty
Hmm.
much, and name after him.
So so you said you've always been a PSG fan, right?
There was no other choice. That was
Yeah.
pretty much yes.
So you're not a Paris FC fan, apparently. So I know that that's the other team that's kind of big there. And what do you think about? Because obviously, isn't Paris FC? Didn't they get purchased by Red Bull?
Yes. Is it Red Bull or one of the Louis Vuitton like family?
It might be that. It
Yeah.
might be that. What?
Yes.
But they're promoted back up to Ligue 1.
Yes.
How crazy is that going to be with both Paris teams in the league?
Yeah. So I think the way they structured those two teams when Paris Saint-Germain started, there they were more centralized on like the Paris and the suburbs and anything around it.
Okay.
But Paris FC was concentrated at just Paris as the main city. So
Okay.
that's why those two kind of divided, and that's how PSG kind of grew up to be what it is now because
Hmm.
they did not just look in their own zone or area.
Yeah, they kind of went around the metro area
Yes,
almost. If you look,
yes,
so
and that's
would you say that that's like a would you say there's maybe like a little bit of a cultural divide when it comes to the fans of both the clubs? Like, is one more of like, oh, they're the rich city, and then PSG would be more of like the club for the people when it comes to like the suburbs and the area around? Like, what do those fans kind of look like?
yeah. I don't think they've had too much to think about it at the time because they knew that Paris FC was still in the middle,
Hmm.
not on League 1, so there was not much of a worry. So it was more of a if PSG is not playing, we can go watch Paris FC.
Okay.
But I think now I'm wondering to see how the dynamics going to change
Hmm.
because there's on one block that separates the two stadiums.
I was going to say,
Um,
like, how far away are the stadiums from each other?
it's one road that separates the two.
Oh my gosh,
So
that game day is going to be nuts.
yes, so I'm not sure how they're gonna manage, but it's going to be interesting. And if Paris FC decides to start spending real money like
Hmm.
PSG does, that's going to El Clasico and all that will have
Hmm.
a lot of challenge because there's nothing in the I don't I don't think there's any other I don't know anything else that says you have your two main stadium with one
Hmm.
road separating them.
The only thing that I would think of would be like Liverpool and Everton because they're really only separated by about a mile. It's like one park is in the middle of them, and you can walk to the park to go to Everton Stadium, and then if you go through the other park, and there you're at Liverpool.
Yeah,
So
so
I mean
that
that's
probably might be closest.
yeah, that would probably be the only. I don't know how far away Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid are. Being
Oh,
in the
that's
same city, I don't know how far away their stadiums are.
I might have to double check. I don't think they're that close though,
Yeah.
because that one looks like you can throw a rock and then hit
Hmm.
the
Well, if
stadium.
if the fans are as crazy as they were this last weekend winning the Champions League, I'm sure there's going to be some things being thrown
I
between the Paris and PSG fans.
I'll
What
plead
what
the fifth on that one.
what did that mean to you? Obviously, I'm sure you were here, you were nice and safe in your home, you weren't there in the streets of Paris. What did that mean to you for them to finally win the Champions League?
I'm still celebrating and still speechless about it.
Hmm.
It's one of those things that you've seen and wanted to obtain for
Hmm.
decades, even before like the US folks knew who Paris Saint-Germain was before the purchase.
Hmm.
So it was that trophy that eluded them for so long. And I don't think there's many people that don't know that, Marseille, which is the West Coast team,
Hmm.
that is literally our biggest rival of all time. There's no one close to that. They won the Champions League way back
Like
with
in
George Weah.
1980 something, like
Yeah,
88
and they
or
beat
89.
Milan for that. Yes.
Hmm.
So every time there's that big clash, which they call the Classique,
Hmm.
that is the first thing their fans will bring up
Hmm.
is that yes, you've won everything, but this is the thing you don't
Yeah,
have.
And now they've got it, man.
And now they've got it. And now the question is how many more can they win?
Right.
And also is like, well, we won 5-0.
Mm-hmm. I've never seen a final that just kind of went that way. And then with you being a PSG fan, is it because obviously Mbappe, he is absolutely phenomenal. He's amazing, probably the best player in the world right now. You know, we always talk about Messi, we talk about Ronaldo,
right,
but they're not where they used to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mbappe's kind of at that level right now, or he's a different style of player, but he's the best player in the world. He leaves PSG, goes to Real Madrid, and then PSG wins the Champions League. I mean, as someone who followed them through the years that he was there, did he hold them back? Was it a tactical issue with him? Because I know whenever he left, a lot of people were upset. But now, I mean, here's the thing: like, you can have the best players in the world. That doesn't mean they always win everything. I mean, the Galacticos back in the day with Real Madrid, they had all these amazing name players, and it's kind of what Real Madrid's doing now with getting like Jude Bellingham and Mbappe, and they're trying to get all these big names. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it doesn't fit your system. Dembele playing for PSG now is a completely different animal than what he used to be.
Yes.
Do you think that Mbappe was maybe holding them back a little bit?
I don't. A few people have asked that question, but I think one of the biggest thing that we may have lost is also there was also Messi at one time, and there was also Neymar at one time. So I think what we've seen in soccer these days is that when you have one player, sometimes you need to have the entire team behind you wanting for you to win it. But the way they had the team built then, it was that they brought the best individual players and then thought that they were going to create magic.
Yeah.
But now if you watch the PSG team now that won it, we're talking 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old players that have the ambition to win things. And you have Ousmane Dembele, who played at Barcelona for long enough, but he was never able to produce what he's doing now.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the dynamic of the team and the youthful of the team that has allowed them to play with a freedom that no one can think of.
Yeah.
Desire is like he's playing soccer like he's in the street of Paris. And that's what we're all enjoying now these days, even with Lamar, right? If you watch these guys play, they're playing a style of football that no one can match around them. Then PSG has 3 or 4 of those guys that can do it. Inter Milan was a great team and defensive, but if you watch their age group, these guys were in the upper layer of their their career. These guys want to win. They're having fun. And
so it definitely seemed like a way, like it seemed that PSG was literally out there with so much freedom, and then Inter Milan almost seemed like there was too much structure.
Yep.
And there's so much to that, especially whenever you're coaching high school kids or college kids or even youth kids. You don't want to punish, kids trying tricks. You don't want to punish kids out there trying new things because they're only going to learn the more they practice it. They're only going to get better the more they practice something, right? If a kid tries a move and it doesn't work, obviously, correct things that you need to, but it's still give them that freedom to do it. And you could just definitely tell PSG had that freedom the entire game. And Inter Milan, they had no answers. They almost felt like they were too set in their ways of wanting to do things that they couldn't adapt to the way they were doing. And Dembele, man, he looked like a pressing machine. I have never seen him like that, dude. And this is something I'm a big Bundesliga fan. I'm a Bayern Munich fan. I have been for a long time. I'm only 30, so I can't say like I've been a fan my whole entire life, or whatever, right? But like I've been watching them for the longest time. When Dembele was at Dortmund, and he was like, I think he was like 19 or 20. This is before he went to Barcelona. That guy was an absolute unit, just so fast, good with both legs. And then obviously the injuries happened, and you just saw him kind of dwindle a little bit. He was still good. He's still amazing, right? But now that he's back in France, I think that helps a lot, like with culture-wise. Whenever you're in Germany, whenever you're in Spain, it's not France. It's not your hometown. It's not your home country, right? he goes back to France, and all of a sudden he's like this completely different player. He's healthy, he's happy, he's liking the system. Luis Enrique's got him going, and you could just tell he was just unstoppable. And then now he's with the French team, right? What goes so? How do you go from? I think this could be one of your things because being a French, fan, when those guys come out from playing for PSG or their teams and they come into the French team, do they change that much? Because when I watch USA, it seems like we watch them play in Europe and they're amazing and they're so good for their teams. And then they come and play for USA and it's like they don't know how to kick a ball. It feels like that sometimes. Like oh, cool. Oh, yeah, he's playing at Juventus and he's playing at AC Milan and he plays at this team. And then they get together and then they can't figure it out. And then we can't beat Costa Rica or we can't beat Panama. Like, you can't beat Panama. Christian Pulisic, you were just scoring 10 goals for AC Milan against some of the best defenders in the world, but you can't score against Panama. France, I feel like, I don't know, maybe a cultural thing, and you can kind of talk a little bit more about this, but like, what seems to make them do better as a team together?
Oh, now we're going to talk U.S. soccer on that part.
We've got that's where we got to, man. Things are coming up. We got a World Cup coming up. We got to figure it out, man. It's gonna be you and me. We got to figure it out.
Hey, I don't know for your viewers how much they watch some of my videos, but one thing that I always tell people is that the way U.S. soccer is structured and how MLS is structured and USL and is structured, it is not made for them to build a national team that's going to win anything on the global stage. Because if you watch the big shift in France was the 98 World Cup once we won it, it sparked something where the French Federation said, listen up, so we have the players, we have the talent all across France. How are we going to take those players and make them national team players? And then they happen to be professional soccer players. So they have Clairefontaine here, where, well, I guess in France, not here in St. Louis, but where the system that's being taught with the senior team is the same methodology that is coached from all the way to like the U7, I think U7, 8. But then it is then trickled down to every single regional clubs and then every neighborhood clubs. This is the French style that we want. And then when you have tournaments, when you have teams, some of those coaches will then travel across and then have kind of understanding with all the other coaches to have a hub that says, these are the players that we think have the potential of making it. Then they actually go to Clairefontaine like every other month or every 6 months, where they then coach with those senior coaches that are there all the time. So they're coaching them, what do we want to see from you, so that you have the proper expectations to when you have a chance, when you have it called up, right? So it's not a single club that says, this is how we play. And then there's a club that says, this is how we play. There's a club that says how we play. It's how we play as a nation.
Okay.
And then you have, like, if you watch a lot of these guys in the French national team, a lot of them have played together, sometimes since they're U10 of their national team.
Wow.
Or they all have grown up together in those age groups, pretty much.
In that same system, the exact same way.
So they know what they're expected to do the entire time. That's when you see them, they're like best friends on the field when they're all hanging out. It's because they've known each other since they were teenagers.
Yeah, there's so much chemistry. There's so much chemistry between them.
Yes. And I think it's even the US, you can see the Robinson and the Pulisic, they've known each other since like teenagers. So you see that connection. But then you see some other players that kind of have to be trickled down and added from, by recruiting, for example.
Yeah.
And then you have to try to match those guys with those that have known each other for 10, 15 years. And it takes time to build that up.
Yeah.
But for the French team, like, there's 19-year-olds now in the French national team now. They've all known each other. They all know Mbappe. Mbappe and Ousmane Dembele, I believe they know each other since they were 9.
Yeah.
So I think that's the part that's missing you in this country is that
Mhm.
it's still so segregated
Yeah.
that even every club team, as you know, right, have their own philosophy of doing
Mhm.
soccer.
Yeah, especially in St. Louis. There's a lot of those that have their own style,
Yeah,
and that's just in one city alone. I think, obviously Europe, it helps that soccer is also the number one sport. So there's a
yeah,
lot of emphasis on it. There's a lot of resources for it. But it also helps with how big your country is. I mean, you think about France. I don't have a map in front of me, right? But it's about the same size as about like Missouri, Kansas, and Iowa combined, right?
yeah.
So it's a lot easier to keep track or like kind of put an entire system when the farthest drive. What's the farthest drive in France? If you had to go from like the north to the south of France, how long would that take to
I
drive?
think if we were I think our vacation time there was probably a 4.5 hour drive if we were going from center to
Hmm.
our. Yes, we used to, I guess, our farm like vacations. I think that was it. Maybe
Yeah,
8 hours. You will find yourself in Nice on the beach.
an 8 hour trip, or are you talking about
Yeah.
like round trip?
No, just one trip. So one
Okay,
one way.
that's basically if I wanted to go from Maryville all the way down to the bottom, Cape Girardeau, or sorry, there's actually a town called Kennett. I think it's at the very
Okay.
bottom right. That would take about 6.5 to 8 hours, and that's just Missouri,
Yep.
right? So that also helps a lot with like, okay, the size of France is about the same size as some of these U.S. states. USA is just so
It's
big.
ridiculous.
It's almost hard for us to have a set nailed down. This is our system for every single soccer player in the United States. Whereas France, you guys have that. You have that possibility because of the size. And Germany does the same. Spain does the same. England, they don't. I don't really know what they're doing. Like they
I
kind
think
of.
they're doing almost the same thing. Like,
I still
uh,
think they're behind. I think
yeah,
England's pretty behind on the way they develop
yeah.
players.
They
But
have
you,
to send players abroad. For
yeah.
what I'm saying for England, their problem is that the EPL is so good that a lot
Hmm.
of them don't have to leave unless you're exceptionally good.
Hmm.
Then you go abroad.
Yeah.
But if you watch the successful national team, there's not that many that plays in their local team,
Oh, I
local
know.
home team, right?
Well,
That's
I,
the
I look at
reason.
this all the time. I look at like when I go through like the Premier League and I'm looking at the lineups, how many English players are on here? How many, I do this thing when I watch Bayern Munich, I'm like, how many
Like,
Germans are playing on the team? Germany tends to do a little bit better with their domestic players in their domestic league, but most of the best players they're playing in Spain. They're playing in England. They're
yeah,
playing in France. I mean, they
some
they
of them in
leave
France.
their some France. There's not a ton that are playing in France for sure. A lot of France has kind of become a sellers league. Kind of like how the Dutch is. They take a lot of the French talent and they sell them off to Spain. And there's nothing wrong with that because
Yeah,
now your players are developing in the best leagues in the world. France is still one of the best leagues in the world. I would absolutely, if I think France, depending on the teams, obviously I would put PSG above the Italian league, right? But there are some. I think Italy tends to be just a little bit stronger on the overall league compared to like France. Because who finished third or fourth in the French league?
wow.
I
I
can't
didn't
remember
even
who
pay
who
attention
finished,
to those
but
guys.
it was probably
That's
Marseille. It's probably Lyon. It's probably Monaco. Do you think Monaco could beat who won the? Oh, Napoli won the Serie A. Do you
they
think
wouldn't
that?
beat
Do you think
Napoli.
that Monaco could beat Inter Milan, who didn't even win their Serie A?
Probably not.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
think the levels are a little bit higher, but obviously individual teams like PSG, I think they're better. But I mean, the league is still so strong. That the French league is just so strong. I would love for more U.S. men's national team players to go over there and play. I know a lot of them go and play in Germany. We've got some in the Italian league, but I think we need to take advantage of all the major leagues and not look down at and not be like, oh, hey, I want to play in England or I want to play in Germany. It's like all of the U.S. If you're playing in MLS and you're 21 to 25, go play in France. Go play in the Netherlands. Go play in Turkey. I don't care, right? If you're
yeah.
playing, I mean, as long as it's the big three, because the Turkish league isn't the best in the world. So, but still, it's still higher competition. And then, of course, the big thing that everyone's talking about now with when it comes to MLS and all that is pro rel. And I know you've had some opinions on
Yeah.
that. I think that we tend to, at least the American players here, they tend to get a little bit complacent in
Yeah.
MLS and USL also because there's no punishment for doing bad,
Yep.
right? And you coming over from France, and here the thing is, I'm a St. Louis City fan, even though I'm going to be moving to Kansas City. I'll still watch Sporting Kansas City. I'll still go to their games, right? Because it's local. But
fan, yeah.
I'll still be a St. Louis fan. We did not have a very good year last year.
Mm-hmm.
There are moments there where even this year, St. Louis, I was like, honestly, did we try and jump too soon to MLS and didn't have a true team? You know what I mean? And so I think too many times, especially with the American system, is we get complacent because there's no punishment for being bad. How much do you think that the USL trying to do promotion and relegation, how much do you think that's actually going to try and change? And do you think they actually have a chance to compete with MLS?
I think they have a chance to compete with MLS. I think I give him more chance than people would like to, because one thing that it doing is that they're more of an open market than the MLS, right? It looks like if you have an owner that wants to have a team, it's available. USL have a better reach in the small towns, right? Because there's USL 2 where it's kids that want to stay in shape for the summer, still able to play. So now your local kids will watch these college kids that some are playing D1 all the way to NAIA and others. Now they're watching these guys play soccer. They will pay attention to say, hey, where's this guy's going next? Oh, he's playing for this college. Now I'm going to keep an eye on this guy. Oh, now he's going to play with which team? So I think the reach that they're doing with the local, like USL 2 and 1 in here, will have a bigger impact than a kid that's looking the MLS that says, this is where I want to reach. But this is the top of the echelon. How did they come up to being MLS guys? They went through a system that not many people know, unless you and I have followed them, as closer. But if it's a kid, I think that's their biggest sell, is that the kid that may not have MLS has to follow, they will know about USL first, because USL 2 or 1, etc. is in their town. The big picture is MLS, yes, because they have the bridge international. But if they do it right, USL would cause a lot of trouble to the MLS. And for me, Pro-L, it's more for the owners and the people that are involved in the day-to-day business that will have to learn what Pro-Rel is, because they're the one that will take the biggest hit financially if their team cannot make it. The players, they will have the understanding that, your contract will say if we get relegated, you will lose some money. But a player can say, hey, you're being relegated, I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
But the owner cannot say, I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I think, so for me, it's the owner that will learn more of the Pro-Rel side of things.
And I was listening to Eric Winalda the other day, and he was kind of talking about, he was basically saying that, like, oh, they're going to try Pro-Rel, but they're going to do it wrong. Like, they're going to mess it up. That's kind of how he was talking about it. And I think the big thing that's going to be is it's got to be done correctly. It's got to be done right. And it's got to it's going to take, exactly.
It has to be slow.
It's a slow process. It needs to be done correctly. I did a video like 5 years ago on YouTube. It's deleted now. I've deleted it or whatever. But it got like 5,000 views, and it was my opinion on how I think Pro-Rel could work in the United States. And this was before this had even been posted, right? About USL. This was 5 years ago. It was during COVID. I thought I could be a little YouTuber or whatever. It didn't really work out. But my idea was like, okay, if we're going to do Pro-Rel, we need to make it to where we're not going to be able to be like the Bundesliga. We're not going to be like the French league. We're not going to be like Spain. We can't automatically drop down 3 teams every year and 3 teams up, because we just don't have the infrastructure yet. And the lower level teams also don't have the infrastructure to probably handle the upper leagues yet either. So if I'm thinking, okay, if Pro-Rel started tomorrow, how would I do it? I would honestly probably do it similar to, let's say, like the Danish system or like the German system, because you know how they have that playoff, like the 16th team has the playoff against the third team. I think that would be a better way to do it, as a playoff. So basically what I would work, let's say it's USL Championship is the top league, because we're not even going to think about MLS because they don't want to do Pro-Rel right now. So let's just talk about USL Championship, and you got USL League 1 and then USL League 2. How I would do it is the bottom 2 teams from the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference of the USL Championship, they would play each other in a promotion or relegation playoff game. Whoever wins that is safe. The loser of that game would then have to play the team that won USL League One as a promotion playoff or relegation playoff. If the USL League One team beats them on a home and away, they would then move up, and then they would have to realign depending on the location. Like obviously, if it was like a LA team lost to a team from Rhode Island, right? Okay, then they're going to have to realign some conferences. But you only have one team going down and one team moving up potentially, right? It's not a guaranteed thing that there's going to be promotion or whatever. Or what you could do, right? I mean, that's just like if I had a perfect world, if it was starting tomorrow, right? That's what I would do. Because then what you would say is we are offering promotion relegation, but it's not going to be a mandatory. It's not like, it's not going to be mandatory. Now, after a couple of years, if that's working and teams in League One and League Two are starting to kind of develop a little bit, they're building up their stadiums, they have a little bit more financial backing. Okay, then let's go back to the Pro Rel. How about this? Now the bottom two, whoever had the least amount of points or something, they automatically go down, and then that brings up the champion of USL. And the other team that had, let's say, the better points, they have to play a playoff against the team that finished League One runner-up in the championship or something like that. So, like, you could go from there, but because I don't want us to think that, oh, hey, Pro Rel, it's instantly going to be like Germany. It's instantly going to be like Premier League. It's 3 up, 3 down. That's not going to work. Teams will fold. Teams won't. I mean, owners aren't going to pass that. They're not going to get, if they guarantee 3 teams are going to go down every year, an American owner is going to say, F that. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to lose all this money, right? But if there was a way that it was like, if there was promotion relegation, it's a gradual promotion relegation to where then it's like, we could have a bad year and still potentially still stay up. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's, Eric Ronaldo probably wouldn't like what I just said. I'm sure he's not going to like that system, but that way you might be able to entice the owners a little bit, because you got to think about how much money you would make from the viewership of that promotion game. I mean, that's almost like what do they call the championship final in the playoffs? They call it the $100 million game or something like that, because if you get up to the Premier League, you get all that revenue.
You get a huge check. Yes.
Yeah, you get a huge fat check. Well, the relegation game, the playoff game in Germany, that's almost like a cup final in itself, because everybody watches it because it's like the only game that's on TV at the time. And that was Heidenheim and Elvisburg or whatever like that. I was really rooting for them because, I like when the underdog gets a chance to move up, right? Yeah. But they lost. They're still going to make a crap ton of money because of the ad revenue and all of that from that playoff game, even though they lost, which is going to help them the next couple of years. That would do the same thing for here. If it was the only game that was on TV in the United States and it was the promotion relegation playoff match, and if they did it correctly, if US Soccer or USL was able to get a TV deal and they really pumped that game and how important it was, dude, that's going to make a crap ton of money.
People love playoffs.
Exactly. Oh, Americans love playoffs. Love it, love it, love it. But I think that's one of the things that's kind of hurting, MLS a little bit, because now most teams, they don't even go in to win. They just go in like, hey, we just got to make the playoffs. We got to make the playoffs. And then if they don't make the playoffs, there's nothing that hurts them. They don't go down. They just have to rebuild and do it again for the next year. So you have so many pointless games. At the end of the year for MLS, most of the games are pointless. There's nothing. There's nothing. I mean, here's the thing. St. Louis, if they turn some things around with this new interim coach and they start winning some games and they make the playoffs, we're all going to be ecstatic. We're going to be freaking pumped because we made the playoffs. Heck yeah, woo! We're only a 3-year-old team.
They're not even out of the playoff yet.
Yeah, exactly. They're still in it. They could still make it. But here's the thing: what happens in 10 games from now when we're automatically not going to qualify for the playoffs? All the games after that are just pointless. Who cares if we win or lose because we didn't make the playoffs anyway? We've got 5 games left on the schedule. What's the point of even going? What's the point of watching? Like, there's nothing to watch for. You know what I mean? And that's
unless you're a sicko like us. And
we're still gonna watch it, right? But it just doesn't have that same, doesn't have anything to it. Like, oh, we won for nothing basically because we didn't make the playoffs and we're not going to get relegated. So, and I think that's just why the European system it's killing it, man. It just keeps those games. Every game is important no matter what level you're at. You know?
I think that's the part where also people forget as well is that even though it's the team and the team that might be relegated, but the implication of having your team going to a lower league is not just the team, the players, is that your entire town then loses a whole bunch of money because not as many people will follow.
A lot of
That's
people
why
lose their
it's so
jobs.
important. Yes, that's why it's so important for those, because it's a town that's being affected if they don't make it there, right?
Yeah.
We all know the big cities, that most likely not going to happen. But the Ipswich, they know that if you don't make it there, that 100 million, even though you might go in the second league the year after, you still had that 100 million that will most likely help you going back up. So I think
Yeah,
it's just
and there's parachute
cultural.
payments as well that help them
Yes.
go back up.
So I think it's just the cultural and kind of help people understand in the US that even though it says pro rel, but it's more than just the team going down that makes it so important.
Yeah, they're going to have to come up with a way that the owners see it still viable, even if they drop down a league. There's going to need to be some kind of guaranteed money, parachute payments. They're going to have to make sure that all of that stuff is organized before they even try and do it. And I'm sure they're working on it right now, day and night. And I hope it works, because I truly feel like the American soccer fan is now ready for promotion and relegation, because I think even some of those lower League One USL League One teams, they've got big followings. There's a lot more support. Now, if you would have tried to do this, 30 years ago when MLS was first starting off, it would have failed. It would have absolutely failed. But now it's finally where soccer is viable in this country to where I think it can work. I'm excited to see how it does. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'll tell you right now, I'll be watching a heck of a lot more USL once that does come up, because now every game matters. Every game's going to be important.
And I think that's how it should be to begin with. That every game should matter.
Yeah. Well, speaking of important games, let's talk about what's going to be starting here in about 8 minutes. I'm not going to try and keep you the whole time. I don't want you to miss any of that game. So let's talk a little bit about Spain versus France coming up. Obviously, I kind of already know who you are going to be predicting for this one, but go ahead and tell us who you're going to predict, and tell us why you think that they're going to win it.
Well, France, of course.
Surprise.
But I think it's also a payback time for the last time they took the European Cup from us. But I think one thing that people the casual ones, and I think is them watching the two of the youngest team in Europe battling it out with players that are showing us a style of football that we are missing. The Lamal and the Williams from Spain, and the duos, Dembele and others from France. It's going to be an interesting and entertaining, like dribble wise, smiling, enjoying the sport.
Yeah,
that's going to be very interesting for me. So, scoreline, I have no idea.
Okay,
it just has to be a win.
It's just win at all costs. A 1-0 is still a win, man. A 1-0 is still a win. I'll take it. I watched a lot of Elise this year because of Bayern Munich, and he is so fun to watch, man. He is so left-footed. I'll tell you, that guy does not like use his right a lot, but that left foot is absolutely dangerous, man.
We have Dembele on the right side, so we're covered.
Yeah, and then thinking about if I had to predict, I'm also going to predict France wins this one. Just looking at the roster and just the players that they have, even the back line. That France team is really young as well. So I think they're going to have them a little bit on the age wise. So I'm going to go France. I think Spain is still going to be. I think it's still going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a 2-1 win for France. I think I'm going to say Dembele scores, and I'm going to say Mbappe has 2 assists, and Elise scores the other one. So those are my 2 scores for you. Mbappe, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think France wins it 2-1. So
Lamine Yamal, I guess, scores the one. Because
let's say he's probably going to be on that right side. He's going to cut over to his left foot, and he's going to hit one in over 90. Yeah. Yes. And then of course, like after this game, they're going to wind up playing Portugal. How does Ronaldo just keep doing this? How does he's 40 years old. When does he ever stop?
he's like this. When if you wanted to build an athlete in general,
Mm-hmm.
the way I see him is that an athlete in general, Ronaldo is the blueprint for any sports because
Mm-hmm.
I think the closest might be LeBron because we heard he spent like almost $1 million to take care of himself. But
Mm-hmm.
I think Ronaldo spends a lot more than that.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody that's in better shape, fit than this guy at 40.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's trying to survive a game. He's still dribbling. He's still doing
Mm-hmm.
all of these things.
Yeah.
I could care less if they say he plays in Saudi and all that. It's like he's still in better
Mm-hmm.
shape than some of the 19-year-olds that are playing soccer.
Oh yeah, I mean he's got the body. I think there's an old YouTube video that you can watch. It's like 8 years old now,
Yeah.
but I think he was around 30 years old whenever he did it. He was still at Real Madrid. He did all these bioscans and did all this testing, and they said that he had a body of a 22-year-old male, and
That's
he was
ridiculous.
30 years old. So he probably obviously age it'll affect you a little bit more, but he literally looks like a 30-year-old male.
Yeah,
I mean, he looks like he's in his prime physical shape. He's slowed down a little bit. He's not as fast as he used to, but he's still very explosive. And I think he's always been a very explosive player. He's not as flary as he used to be, but he's also adapted his game to where now instead of being the guy, hey, give me the ball, I take 3 or 4 guys on with a dribble, and then I go with speed. Instead, now I'm more of a target guy. Find me in space. I'll still take guys on, but it's very short. Heck, he had 2 or 3 opportunities where he was in the box and he made like a sharp cut and then he hit a shot. It hit off somebody, went out, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like the old Ronaldo. Like that was so cool to watch.
Snap.
It's just crazy to see him still at 40 years old, still competing against some of the best defenders in the entire world. So I'm excited to see whether
a final.
Yeah, exactly. He just took his country to another final, and I'm sure that that's just how Portugal is too. When they're in finals, it's hard to vote against Portugal, because they work so hard and they play so well.
They took one from us too, so.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see. Obviously, if France makes it to the final, that's going to be a rematch of the Euros from a couple years ago, whenever Ronaldo won it. But I'm excited to see how that game's going to go. Obviously, it's starting here in a little bit, but
it's being recorded, and I have another TV right there. That's
nice.
Playing.
Well, my now wife is going to be coming home here pretty soon, so and the dogs are going to be going crazy. I don't know if you can see them. I don't even know. They probably
we're pet friendly somewhere.
Right, so
they heard camera and they're like,
yeah. So Mo, thank you so much for doing this, man. This was a lot of fun getting my chance to talk with you. So for the people who don't know you, how can people get a hold of you? How can people watch your stuff? Go ahead and plug anything you want, man. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, you can find me at Mo Futbol TV and also Top Corner Talk, where we talk St. Louis soccer. And also I think somewhere up there, if you watch, I'm also a big component of high school soccer and the Champions League soccer. So hopefully Kansas City very soon will kick off theirs as well. So we'll be able to talk a lot more of that. But yeah, for me, it's just supporting grassroots soccer in Missouri all the way to the pros. Me using my connections to help whoever, talk soccer, and another Missouri soccer guy, which I love it. So definitely appreciate your time. Let's talk soccer off more, and if we can go from St. Louis to Kansas City, and then all in between. Then let's make it happen and make St. Louis and Kansas City and Missouri the place to be when we talk soccer. More.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for doing this, and I'm glad you're only my 3rd episode, man. So that I'm still pretty new to all this. Thank you so much for everything, and have a good rest of your day, man.
All right, thank you. Take care.